Chad Doberman was a father of 2 sons, who were his pride and joy. But unfortunately, he was driven to kill them both in a moment of rage. No one quite knows what prompted such a heinous act. It could have been a number of contributing factors. One possible explanation is that Chad's mental health had been deteriorating for some time. He was unable to cope with the stress of caring for his sons alone. Additionally, Chad had a history of substance abuse. This likely left him more vulnerable to irrational outbursts. It's also possible that Chad was driven to violence by feelings of resentment. His sons were a constant reminder of the life he could have had he made different choices. There is also evidence to suggest that Chad had a violent temper. It's possible his sons may have said or done something that set him off. Sadly, we may never know why Chad Doberman killed his own sons. But what we do know is that it was a tragedy that could have been avoided. Chad was a loving father in many ways. He had taken care of his sons single-handedly since their mother had left years earlier. He had tried his best to provide them with everything they needed and had always looked out for them. But Chad had some serious issues, including mental health problems and a long-standing history of substance abuse. These issues contributed to Chad's increasing sense of frustration and helplessness in trying to care for his sons. As his stress levels reached an all-time high, Chad's temper became more and more volatile. Eventually, he could no longer contain his anger, and he lashed out in a fit of rage, killing his own sons. This was obviously a terrible, heartbreaking thing for Chad to do, and the tragedy of it will haunt him forever. It's clear that something within Chad Doberman snapped and pushed him to commit such a horrific act. But it's also important to note that this was not an act of violence perpetrated out of malice or evil intent. Chad was simply a man who was struggling to cope with his own issues, and he tragically took his sons' lives as a result. His actions are unforgivable, but we should try to remember that there was a deep-rooted reason why he did what he did. We may never know what it was that drove Chad Doberman to kill his own sons. But we should never forget the tragedy of it. There should be a greater effort to help those in need, as it may have prevented this terrible event from happening. With the right treatment, Chad may have been able to avoid taking his sons' lives. This case serves as a reminder to us all to be ever vigilant when it comes to mental health issues, and to seek help if we ever feel like we are struggling. Chad Doberman killing his own sons is an awful reminder of how mental health can be overlooked and ignored, with devastating consequences. Had Chad been able to get the help he needed, he may not have been driven to commit this terrible act. This case should also remind us of how important it is to give our loved ones the support they need and to never take them for granted.